It's a great day to be a coyote. Welcome, Coyote Nation, to another episode of Back to Pack Podcast, where we are going to be bringing you all of your favorite games, memories, and of course, discussion with our fellow coyotes. As a disclaimer, we have no affiliation to the University of South Dakota. This is a podcast ran by fans for fans. The ideas and comments do not represent the university. Our opinions are our own. Be sure to find us on Twitter at BackToPackSD. With that being said, let's jump in. What's going on, Mitch?
Hey, what's up,
This is
Coyote
pretty
Nation?
cool.
This is cool. First time being live.
I'm so pumped about this. I'm really excited to be able to hang out with the Coyote fans. I know this was really kind of your dream when we first started talking about all this.
Yeah, it really was. I've seen a lot of other, fan accounts and across college sports do, Facebook Live stuff. So that was kind of always the vision when we started. Unfortunately, we didn't get it going right away, but here we are trialing it out. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think what really pushed me over the edge to want to do this was how much fun I had with the Wisconsin guy and the program they have set up. And if we could be a fraction of what they got over there, we can have a lot of fun with this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see we've got Yoke fan already in here commenting, so that's cool.
Oh yeah, big friend of the podcast, that's for sure. We see him following us around on a lot of things. But no, I'm excited. This is cool. I will say I am jealous of your setup way more than mine when it comes to this. So I had to cheat and use the dome picture instead because I don't have the cool memorabilia behind me.
Yeah, I've got a few things. I'll show it off at some point, but we'll save
Yeah,
that
we
for
might
later.
have to do a tour of the man cave, and I'll take you guys out to my USD man cave here in a little bit. The popcorn machine is pretty cool. We'll say that.
Heck yeah.
All right. But let's get started by just getting everybody upset. Let's talk about last weekend.
Man. So before I jump into this, I just want to say there's so much going on right now in college football. With the FBS conference realignment with the Pac-12 and stealing some Mountain West teams. There's 4 going to the Pac-12. They're trying to rebuild. So there's rumors about, NDSU, SDSU, Montana State, a bunch of other schools being floated around joining, and a bunch of dominoes falling there. And then you also have the South Dakota Attorney General, Jackley, suing the NCAA over the House $2.8 billion settlement. And both USD and SDSU are teaming up in that complaint. So you've got that going on. And then here we are talking about pertussis.
It has been an absolute roller coaster of a weekend. You brought up the realignment, and I wouldn't mind touching on that for a quick bit if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, go for it.
And it's really just one stance that I have on this, and that is I don't see, besides the money, of course, which is always awesome, I don't truly see the benefit for USD, SDSU, NDSU, UND to look at jumping up to the G5 level.
Right.
And really what everybody wants to do is compete for national championships.
Yeah, versus some crappy bowl game.
Exactly. And I mean, we already saw with like JMU jumping up, they did really well, but they still got shut out. They were not given an opportunity whatsoever. And now they're already starting to crumble a little bit because their coaches got hired and moved on anyways. But truly, for the 4 Dakota schools to be relevant, I think it is a good focus to stay in the FCS because all 4 of us have a fantastic opportunity to actually win a national championship, bring home the hardware, which everybody really wants to see.
Yeah, and the price of entry is now higher. It's $5 million instead of 5,000 or 500,000, whatever it was prior. But now it's 5 million. But at the end of the day, it's all about media dollars, right? TV contracts. Yep. And so if you can justify that, making that, pulling the trigger, making that jump, and collecting a bigger paycheck on the other end, then it does kind of make sense. But you look at like the teams in our area, there's really only one in my mind that makes sense from a market size standpoint, and that's NDSU. Fargo's a much bigger city. They've got much bigger reach, more fans across the country than any of the Dakota schools and Montana schools for that fact. So they're the only ones that I could maybe see, but I think that they're tied to us other schools. I almost think that we're kind of all four tied together at this point, or at least two out of the four. But we'll see. It's really interesting, and who knows what more dominoes are going to fall.
Exactly. And, that's a rumor I've been hearing too, is SDSU truly isn't going to jump, especially to the Mountain West or whatever that turns into,
Right.
by themselves. And, conferences, for the most part, look at taking 2 teams at a time anyways, just to keep the schedule even. But I do think we're all tied together very well. We have the strong rivalries. We all have a lot of disdain for each other.
Right.
But we're all in this together too. And I think us four, the Montana schools, have an opportunity to truly turn the FCS into what we want to then, as not just the powers of our conference, but the powers of FCS.
Yeah, and FCS is just, and generally speaking, FCS is a really strong quality football, division.
Yeah.
We know it's top heavy, just like the FBS, of course, but it's quality football, and it's probably at this point the most pure football out of
Yes.
any of the from the NFL on down to high school. High school is pretty pure too, but FCS is right there with it. And the higher you go, the less pure it gets. So, I love the FCS. I have no complaints where we're at.
Yeah, exactly. And I do take an opportunity to compare to what the G5s already are doing out there. And I actually, when I was talking with the Wisconsin guys previously, they thought our football skill set were better than pretty much anybody else in the MAC out there, besides maybe Toledo or something like that. But one
Right.
thing I do get a kick out of, just the idea. Could you imagine Miami, Florida in a playoff game having to travel to Montana for that first round?
No. No.
They would not know what hit them. I know they've played in loud, crazy crowd stadiums, but -5 degrees, 25,000 fans just breathing down their necks, and they are hot to go.
Right.
It would be a lot of fun.
That comment reminds me of the one that's always being floated on Twitter, the Snow Belt Conference too, by the way.
Yes.
Which I wouldn't be opposed to that.
The only reason I'm opposed to it is because it's all the powers being put together.
Right.
And when you put us all together and just abuse each other,
It's literally like the SEC or the Big Ten at that point. Yeah. On a smaller scale, but yeah, I hear you.
But no, I think it would be a lot of fun to be able to help rebuild the FCS to what it could be with the four Dakota schools and Montana schools on this.
Right.
But speaking of Big Sky schools, do you want to stand on a pedestal, or do you want to stand on your soapbox first and go off, or you want me to do that?
I'll let you go first.
All right. So I did not listen to the Yokecast with John like you did. I've only read the press clippings on there, and it is remarkable the difference in conversation from one school to another. You have USD standing there saying, we did not make this decision to postpone or to cancel this game.
Right.
We wanted to play. And then you hear from PSU on this that it was a joint decision. We were very open with our conversations to USD about the situation going on. And we all know for a fact that they knew, at least on Thursday night, I've heard earlier, but they knew by Thursday, and we hadn't even left yet.
Right. And that's really what this whole conversation comes down to, is really just communication of time, timing of communication, and how terrible it was from their end. We know that once we got there, we did meet with them. But obviously there's a lot of outside forces, not just the schools and the admins, but you've got doctors, it went all the way to, South Dakota Board of Regents, whatever, their powers are out in Oregon. And then you got, it supposedly went all the way to the governor of South Dakota. So, I mean, there's a lot of communication going all over the place. I can't imagine, just trying to get everybody on the same page and make decisions in that little of time. Exactly. We were scrambling. I know we did a good job and our teams were aligned, but a bunch of stuff that totally avoidable, right?
And you know what? I agree with the comment right here. 100% should be a forfeit.
Yeah.
When we spend the money to fly out, we are ready to go. And it was not communicated to USD in the least bit on the situation that was at hand. We deserve the forfeit because every win is going to be important. And I did tell you this before we started this. I was going to save it for later, but if we had a photocopy season of last season for this season, I'm not worried about the playoffs at all. But all of a sudden, UND is looking way stronger than I put them. I'm pretty sure I put them like second to last, only above Indiana State when I first started talking about them.
Right.
And then UNI is jumping up in the polls, even though we thought it would be a down year for them. NDSU, I mean, at first we were all like, oh, wow, they look pretty strong against Colorado. But now the ETSU game definitely raises some questions. Southern Illinois was looking good until their quarterback injury, but the Missouri Valley is tough.
Yeah. And it seems more open this year than the last few years.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we could count almost on both hands how close or every close win we had. I don't think we had too many outside of a 1 to 2 possession game.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for me, obviously we want reimbursement for the travel costs, which we know were upwards of $150,000 there. Doesn't seem like that's going to be a thing that happens in our favor. That's pretty much a done deal at this point. I think the only thing to be decided is through the appeals process with the NCAA, whether it does become a forfeit and a win for us or not. The problem is, and John Schemmel, for those of you that haven't listened to the Yokecast episode that came out today with John Thayer interviewing John Schemmel, was, there's the NCAA, which I could talk a half hour on how worthless the NCAA is. Don't get me started there. But they basically have a hands-off approach on stuff like this. Now they did help with COVID, but that was such a, large, wide scale issue. Whereas this was, they don't really have a precedent for this specific issue. So they've basically thrown their hands up and say like, hey, it's up to you guys to figure this out. It's whatever your contract between the two schools says. Mm-hmm. And supposedly, I haven't done this yet, but supposedly that's public knowledge and we can actually go look up that contract and read it.
Oh, I'm going to Google now as you get on your soapbox.
So there's that piece to be worked through. And I know there's still work being done there, and you have the Missouri Valley Football Conference involved. You have the Big Sky Conference involved. So, getting all the parties to try to come to a consensus, I guess. But that part's pending. Like I said, the money's probably long gone at this point, not going to get reimbursed. And then Dennis Shorter's the other topic that's come up, with his suspension from the Wisconsin game for targeting. And if he does have to indeed miss another half of football versus Drake, he would miss 7 quarters of football for, obviously a 2-quarter, penalty. So there's that too. They have appealed that to the NCAA, but like I said, the NCAA is worthless. So I'd be surprised if we even get an answer by Saturday. It would probably just be what it is, but which is unfortunate because he should be cleared to play at this point. But those are kind of the 3 issues that are out there: the money, and then the win-loss, and then the forfeit, and then him.
And the one thing I kind of look back on too is Schemmel's tweet about the whole situation where he had his 10 points. Yep. That last one, unresolved issues. So that's the thing that I really hang on to, plural. Mm-hmm. What else? And I have a feeling we're never going to hear, but what else happened behind those closed doors that makes us go to turn it into issues like that?
Well, we know for sure the issues were the 3 that I just mentioned. Those are the 3 that are kind of outstanding. But yeah, is there other ones? I mean, there very well could be other issues that we're not privy to. But yeah, those were the 3 main ones that I know of.
Yep. Yeah, it's all nuts. The one thing that frustrates me the most, I listened to their coach, and I don't know who was interviewing him from Portland State, kind of about how you move on and stuff and thoughts.
Yeah, that was their radio guy or play-by-play guy.
And the guy, he mentioned they were talking about it a little bit, and their coach said, well, and we also didn't want to play this game because we have coaches with little ones back home.
Right, because the risk is higher to infants and the elderly, obviously, with whooping cough.
But they have already been coaching these kids. They've already been around them. They've already been exposed.
Right.
Maybe, if we were talking about our coaches who haven't been around it yet,
Right. Our team. Yeah.
then it makes sense. But they are saying our coaches at Portland State.
Right.
So that really doesn't make sense.
No, especially when they had a for sure confirmed case and a bunch of others that seemed like they were leaning that way. A bunch of players with symptoms, similar symptoms.
Yep, exactly. But yeah,
Yeah. And
go
just
ahead.
to go back, I had heard that they were really squirrely just scheduling this game back when this was put together, whether that was a year or 2, 3 years ago, whatever it was. They were really squirrely about this. And and then we talked about their facilities and not being adequate. So it's like this whole thing is just weird. It feels gross. It feels. I've actually been in a personally since we found out about this on Saturday. I've just not felt right.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'm ready to move on. Great news. We have a wonderful tune-up game this weekend in the Dome.
Right.
How you feeling
And
about Drake?
I want to call out Yote fan here real quick. I threw his comment up on the screen. He says he liked what John Schemmel said about tightening up future contracts. Yeah, I agree. There's got to be some language change there for, around the wording, when unable to fulfill your end of the deal and actually play the game. And that's where this goes. It goes to technicalities, fine print, actually legal jargon that's in the contract. So, whether us fans, we obviously have our opinions and stuff, but it's going to come down to what those contracts say. And it doesn't sound promising on our end at this point from what I've seen and heard.
No, I think we all have the right to be frustrated, throw our hands in the air and, start raising a fuss on Twitter, which, I'd love to see the Missouri Valley step in and help us out a little more on this. But at the end of the day, it's over. We're also just fans. We can't change it. It will be hopefully changed behind closed doors. But all I know, one thing that I live by, whether the game's being played or not, ball never lies. Something's going to happen. Karma's going to come back around. And it could work out for the Yotes later down the road.
Yeah, and let's hope so, because, you brought this up earlier. It was seeding. That's where my head goes. Yes. We have this game. I mean, we were pretty confident we were going to win. We know we were going to win this game. So get this. So they play Boise State next week, and they're about to collect a big fat check for that game.
Yep.
And how quickly they turned around after the dust settled on Saturday and Sunday. They turned around and said, yeah, we're game on for next Saturday against Boise State. So that rubbed me the wrong way too. But on our end, so one less game, one less potential D1 win, that makes that D2 Northern game look not ideal, because we really need another D1 win. For me, assuming the Yotes take care of business the rest of the way, which we have the utmost faith they will, and win the games they should, and hopefully steal one from NDSU or SDSU. For me, it really just comes down to the playoffs and the seeding. And will this hurt us and potentially be knocked down to a lower seed to where we don't get to host a home playoff game and we have to go on the road in round one?
Yeah.
It is kind of where my head goes. And that's dangerous. And that can have a huge impact.
It can. But I think at this point, we just got to play our game, take it one at a time. The good news, I will say the good news with PSU, they have to go to Boise State. And the funniest part about Boise State, they have one of the best running backs in all of college football right now. And they are going to get the punishment they deserve there.
Yeah, absolutely. They will.
So, yeah, but you bring up the games, the importance of the schedule. The good news about our next game with Drake, they were a playoff team last year.
Yeah, and they were. They won their conference, the Pioneer, which isn't a strong conference, but hey, they won it. So kudos to them. They made the playoffs. I mean, they're no pushover anymore.
They're not, but they're still going to be a pushover for us, at least.
Do you just want to jump to that? Are we done with Portland State or what?
I mean, we're just gonna be talking in circles with Portland State, unfortunately,
Okay.
if we keep
Okay.
going with them. So yeah, I think it's time to transition to what everybody's excited for: the ability to move on.
All right. Yeah, I just want to,
Yeah,
as we close the book on Portland State, I just want to say shout out to the players and moms, in the hotel. That was pretty neat to see. I know some of the players went to the mall,
yep,
just found stuff to do to kill some time. But it sounds like from everything we've heard from inside the team, the coaches and players, they took it in stride,
yeah,
and they were ready to get home and get back to work and refocus and take care of business here this Saturday. So shout out to them, for taking it as well as they did. Um, Sounds like this team, and we knew this going into the season, we have a mature team as well,
yes,
and
we
so
do.
I think that helps. But yeah, just I'm sad that the players and coaches were robbed of the opportunity. I know other people have said that too, and us fans were robbed of a chance to watch them. And they were going to have the black helmet, right, with the
Yeah,
white
that
jerseys and black pants, so a combo we've
would have been
never
cool.
seen before. I was kind of looking forward to that too. But yeah, but basically to end this, I just want to say Portland State's dead to me. I hope we never see them again. Want nothing to do with them, but unfortunately, they are on our schedule in 2030 to make the return trip. So
Yep.
I don't know if we can
Hey,
get a buyout for that game and find somebody else, but yeah,
put them in front of this crowd
Portland
and
State's dead.
let's just absolutely go nuts on this. Let's act like this is national championship and just try to bury them. Open that playbook and just go crazy.
Yeah, they
But
didn't.
yeah, I think
At the end of the
it's
day,
time to move
they
on
didn't
to
want this. They didn't
Drake.
want the
So
smoke. They didn't want our smoke, man.
I think we
That's
lost
all
you
it is.
there, Mitch. I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello.
It might be on my end.
Okay, I was gonna say I can hear myself. Can you hear me?
All right, so it must be on me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. Want me to? I can jump
I
out
think
and
I
jump.
lost audio here, so give me 1 second.
Okay, so I can jump out too. Yeah, I got you.
All right, there we go. Now I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, it was on my part, so apologies for that. Yeah, I do think it's time to move on to Drake now.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so yeah, and I do want to say right here, Evan W brought up a great fact about Drake that's very interesting with them beating Eastern Washington. On paper, that looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's all I have, and it still is a huge win for them. I'm not going to short sell it at all, but Eastern Washington isn't what they used to be anymore.
No, they're not very good this year.
No. And so that it looks good on paper, and I can see where Coyote fans get nervous because I remember Eastern Washington being the team that competes for a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
This year, I don't even think they're competing in the conference.
No, they're
So,
definitely. It's a down year for them.
mhm.
But for looking at the Drake program and their history, that is a big win for them.
Yes. And I don't want to short sell it at all because it is a big win for them. But I started looking into it. And funny enough, for the University of Drake, they're not the only program going into this game, or we're not the only program going into this game with no contests on the schedule already.
Yeah, that's right. So it's week 3, week 4, depending on who you ask in college football.
Yep.
They've only played one game, right? They had
Yep.
their first game was against a D2 opponent, Quincy, and it got canceled at halftime because of weather. They had like a 7 or 8 hour lightning delay. They were up 10-0 at half. And they ended up calling it as no contest. So that's kind of funky. Then week 2, they go on the road and beat Eastern Washington up there in Cheney, Washington, in overtime, kind of stole that game, right? And then week 3, they had a bye. So they've had just a clunky of start to their season as we have.
Exactly. So that's wild, really, for them in their process there. And I do like what Jordan just commented on here. Obviously, we got the diehards that are already following along, watching with us, and we'll have the diehards listening. but there's still 2,500 tickets available in a 9,000 seat stadium. That doesn't look good.
No, it's not ideal. I think a lot of people, the Yote fans of old, I think, are just thinking, oh, this is Drake. We're just going to beat them, by 60 points and move on to the next week. But, I think Drake presents a little bit more of a challenge than that this year. And we're going to get into that in a second. But yeah, I think that's part of it. I think Yote fans are kind of overlooking this game a little bit.
Yeah, this is that last tune-up game before you get into conference. And I pray that the seats are full against Southern Illinois for sure. That's a heck of a way to start off this Missouri Valley schedule. I really think that's going to be a tough one. But Drake, I definitely think we can't take the ability to overlook them. We got to go out, show out, and do exactly what we did to Northern State. I do think this team is very similar level-wise to Northern State, maybe a little better.
Right. Yeah, and we got MW in here saying the rain's going to stay away too, rock the tailgate. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. When I looked at this, 6-7 days ago, we were supposed to get like an inch on Saturday and Sunday, and now that's basically gone. It's fizzled to nothing now, so it's looking real good for the tailgate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so excited. We did not get a quality opportunity to tailgate. We were all huddled under
various tents together.
Yeah. Yep. We got to make friends with some Coyote fans that we normally wouldn't, though, which was nice.
Yep.
And I will say this, Jordan, we have not sold out the stadium enough for everybody to get jello shots yet. So you need to settle down first.
He is bringing some, though. That's what we've heard. Right?
Oh yeah. Yep. They're good. They're very good. They're dangerous, actually.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so with Drake, we want to, jump into that. I truly don't think there is much that USD can do to lose this, or I don't think this is going to be much of a contest, really, when I look at it. Yeah, Drake did beat Eastern Washington, but they also, going into halftime against Quincy, which I've never heard of them before, they pulled up some talent from below to play that game. They only went into halftime 10-0. So you can look at that Eastern Washington, or you can start looking at what they did prior. And even though it was a no contest, 10-0 at halftime is on your home field against your tune-up game is something that you should look at as well.
Yeah, and just to give Coyote fans some background info on Drake, they're obviously an FCS team now. They're in the Pioneer League, so they're with Butler, San Diego, Valpo, Dayton, St. Thomas, et cetera, et cetera. As far as I know, I've seen kind of two pieces of information on this, but as far as I know, they're a non-scholarship program still.
Yes,
they are still
non-scholarship.
I think that's that league in general, actually. And my notes on this, just kind of what little I've looked, is they're confident because of their win. That was, like I said, a big win for them. They're full of experienced players. They've got a bunch of grad students, seniors and juniors, pretty much across the board, and in their starting spots. So they're definitely experienced. Where I see the advantage, so I've got I looked at their O-line. Their O-line average is about 290 pounds. So just a little smaller than ours, not terrible. But their D-line is small. They only average 250 on the D-line, and we've got 300, 310, 315 across the board. Yep. So major advantage in the trenches there from our offensive perspective. So, we talked about this leading up to the Portland State game, was that we wanted to see them throw the ball more, be more balanced, get Aiden and the receivers going. And unfortunately, I don't know that this is going to be the game that we see that either, because I think we're just going to ground and pound and rush for 250. I think, what did I have? I think Portland, or not Portland, good Lord, I got them on the brain. Eastern Washington rushed for like 200 and some, 260 against them. So
that's just nuts.
In my mind, if Eastern Washington's rushing for 260, we should be putting up at least that, if not more.
Yeah.
With our rushing attack, shoot 300 should be achievable. So I don't know that this is the game that we're going to see the passing game get going yet again. It's just the way the seasons went for us so far.
And I'm struggling. So first, I'm going to comment on Aiden. It's tough. I look at the ESPN app a lot to plan out my Saturdays because I'm a big Iowa State fan, and I like to see what else is going to be on for college ball. But when you look at the preview of a USD game and Aiden has 199 yards of passing total in 2 games,
right?
It is frustrating. And I thought we were really going to need him and his arm to beat Wisconsin. And we almost didn't, which is crazy, It
Right.
was a 1 possession game in the 4th quarter. And I think at that point he'd only thrown for like 90 some yards. So it's a really interesting offense. And I still go back to my fishing boat with too many fishing poles on the deck analogy here. It's perfect. We have too many fun toys to play with. And when you can hand it off to Keandre Jones around the edge, or you can give it to Piers Jr. or Tice up the middle, what more do you need?
Yeah, until we find a team that can stop that rushing attack, and we were pretty, like we talked about Wisconsin, we did pretty well. We held our own there. So outside of the first quarter, but yeah, I don't know, man. I just don't see this as the game that we're going to see it. I would like to see some shots, but I don't know that we're going to see too many in this game. And then Yoke fan put up here, we're favored by 28 versus Drake. That was the opening line. I don't know if that's changed or not, but yeah, that is correct. We're favored by 28.
And that's the other thing I wanted to bring up too. I saw that comment, and you want to know what really frustrates me about this? Eastern Washington was favored by 35.
Yeah, I think I sent you that.
I think you did. Yeah,
that blew my mind.
And now we're a much better team.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they traveled out there too, but they're coming to our dome. And this is more emotions on the Coyote fan side, but we had a game taken away from us.
Right.
The team's fired up.
Oh yeah, this team's going to come out pissed off and ready to play.
Exactly. So if everybody listening lives in South Dakota, I'm sorry you can't gamble on sports, but Mitch, you want to go throw down a few bets for us on this?
I'm not touching this one.
Dude, I think Coach is fired up enough that he opens up the playbook a little bit.
I have to see it to believe it, and I've not seen it yet this year. So I think we just run it down their throat again. I think it's going to be Northern State all over again.
Well, and you know what? If we have 2 special teams touchdowns, I can tell you, shorter in the second half isn't going to miss that opening tackle to allow their running back to get a 40-yard run. I just struggle with finding a way that the game's even close, really.
Yeah, and I agree. And to Ludi's comment here with EW giving up 460 to Drake, and geez, most of those were pass yards too, by the way. Their quarterback threw for like 380. He's not getting that on us. His defense is too good.
And I can tell you, the secondary is going to be fired up with Shorter being out. You got some guys that want to prove themselves, and their opportunities available at that. And Barros may be back.
Oh, have you heard anything?
I haven't. Well, we heard 2 weeks out.
Yep.
But we heard 2 weeks out prior to the Wisconsin game. Portland State.
He was practicing at that point. He was working his way back, but
yeah. And I think this is a perfect game for him to get back and get his feet wet, get back to game speed. He's not going to start. There's no point. I've been really impressed with our guys on the corners this season. So
same here.
There's no point in rushing him back, but we know the potential that he has could make him and Reed's the best duo in the secondary, I'd say, at least in the Missouri.
Interesting. Yeah. I think our defense, this quarterback's a pocket passer. So if we can get any bit of pressure, I think that just shuts them down completely. They don't have much of a run game. They do a lot of, like jet sweeps and stuff like that, where they're pitching the ball forward. The quarterback's pitching forward from the shotgun. So he actually gets credit for passing yards for that, even that's kind of technically a rush attempt. But so that inflates his numbers a little bit there. But they do like to do a lot of stuff to the edges in that regard. So there's that too. But I don't know, man. I've doubted our defense a little bit these first 2 games we've played, and I think I said it coming out of the Wisconsin game. This defense is legit, so I'm ready to go all in there. And there's no way they're putting up those kind of yards or those kind of points.
No. With it, do you got any keys to the game or player highlights?
Yeah, I think the keys are my keys are going to be the same as what I expect to see, and that's we're going to own the line of scrimmage again, just like we did against Northern. I've got play bully ball. I talked about the offensive line just being that much bigger, so we're going to be able to get a big push up front and just run it down their throat, like we talked about already. And then I want to see us take some shots. We've been asking, let's do it. We need to see the ball be thrown and not just 5 or 10 yards downfield. Give me 20, 30, 40, give me something. Take a deep shot to Karan, man. Let him run. I don't know what we're waiting for.
If the number of Jello shots I take in the parking lot before the game outnumbers Aiden's shots in the game, I have some concerns. For both of us.
Jordan, how many are you bringing? And what time are you going to be there? Because that'll dictate how many Jake can put down.
Surprisingly, it doesn't take much. I will say, anybody that's watching with us too, if you have anything that you want to throw in, add on to this, feel free to throw that in the comments.
We'll get to score predictions in a second. I'd like to see what other people are thinking for that.
Yeah, I start throwing those predictions in there. And I will say, with it, the Eastern Washington Drake game that happened perfect at the perfect time for USD. It gives them that opportunity to not overlook this game. Like, oh, red flag. Like, we should probably pay attention a little bit to this. But then they also show up, do their job, and we're done. I know Jordan's a little nervous about this game because he was talking about it in the group chat quite a bit. I want to jump back. I have a prediction, and I don't think it's close. Maybe I'm relying too much on what UND, SDSU, and NDSU did to them last year, but I said 55-6.
That's what you're going with?
I'm going with that. I think this team's frustrated. They got some pent-up aggression that they need to, unfortunately, find a target for.
You're not afraid of number 13, big play Trey Radoka on their team, the guy who caught the game-winning touchdown, Eastern Washington?
I feel bad, but
I got a laugh out of this. His nickname's Big Play Trey. He was quoted after the game with saying, "There's nothing scarier than a man who's got nothing to lose."
I did see that, and I do love that. I love confidence.
He's coming in fired up, man. His confidence is through the roof.
Mike Reed's gonna duct tape that mouth shut.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's all I'm gonna say on there. I'm excited for this, though. I'm excited to get everybody back together. I'm ready to tailgate, have some fun where the weather's actually nice because it's looking that way right now.
Yeah.
But you got anything else on this?
I agree with you. Just to echo that, this season has started off really clunky and weird for us. I'm ready to just get rolling, start stacking wins, get into Valley play, and see where it goes. So I'm with you. And as far as my prediction goes, I'm going 48-10. So similar to you. I think you had 55-6. So yeah, we're along the same lines there.
Yeah, and this is why I want you to hammer the over on the bets for us. I'm not going to throw the mortgage out there, but maybe the kids' college tuition.
Yeah, I just think our guys are going to be so hungry to play. They're going to come in fresh and ready to go. So I just don't see it being drastically different than the Northern State game, quite honestly.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say I really appreciate it. And this was a ton of fun having the guys listen along with us, having the comments in there. I will say it threw me off a couple times just because I wanted to start reading what the comments were saying as we were going. But this is fun. I think this is going to be part of the rotation for the foreseeable future here.
Yeah, I agree. And we had a couple of predictions come in.
There we go. Yeah.
Jordan threw out 38-14. He said garbage time touchdown for Drake. Yeah, I could see that too. And then MW went 34-9, a little bit lower on the scoring there than what we were thinking, but 34 is still respectable.
Yeah. And then we also got Yote fan down here as well, throwing out 45-13. That's what I'm liking to see. I equate these guys to Northern State. So if we have a similar score, that's kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah, and it's no disrespect. I mean,
None.
it's just the gap is still wide between us and them. The Valley and the Pioneer League. It's still a pretty big gap, even though they did win their league last year. They are on the up. They have a ton of confidence, like we said, but yeah, I think our guys just come out and bully them.
Yeah, exactly. And we got one last prediction thrown out there, 35-3 from Ludi, 54 here.
Ooh, forcing three turnovers. That'd be nice.
You mentioned it too with their O-line being 290. Our D-line averages that across the board. So the pressure that they could create, Gary Bryant getting loose on the quarterback there, strip sack easily happens. Pressure, bad throw, pick, fumble by a running back. I mean, it's pretty easy to see
muffed punt, that something like that. Yeah.
Oh, who fumbles on kick returns against Augustana?
Yeah, what the heck?
Opening game.
What the heck was that?
I'm not gonna get into that one because that game got me excited. So, all right, perfect. Well, unless you got anything else, Mitch.
I don't think so. Ludi says Gase is going to eat Saturday. I agree.
Oh yeah,
he's due. Everybody's due. Shoot, we haven't played in 2 weeks.
Exactly. All right. Well, perfect. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. This was a blast, and I think we're gonna call it a night.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Love the interaction too.
All right. Bye. Go Yotes.
Go Yotes.